Hello everyone and welcome back to the channel. I am Abe with mysticgenmara.com and it is the last Tuesday of the month, I think. So I'm going to be doing the continuation of what I discussed last week, which was sacred space. Today I would like to dive a little bit more in depth into how to create your own personal sacred space. What tools or concepts you should understand to create this space. And again, this is not a comprehensive list. We'll be focusing primarily on one version, but this is a good template to build your own off of. And then we can go over how to open, then close that space, even though everything is sacred all the time. Sometimes you just need that mental closure, kind of like a trigger, basically. Then I'm going to release a second video along with this one that is going to be a guided meditation, and I will be playing a singing bowl, a little metal one, with it. I didn't want to do it on this video, so if you just wanted to watch the meditation part, you wouldn't have to watch or click through the video or however. So I'll just do that one as a separate standalone video for that purpose. And I'm going to link the angels that I talk about in this video because it's ones I've already discussed in previous videos. I'll link those videos below in the description. So into the metaphysical depths we go. I am experimenting with some stuff with graphics, so bear with me if I am boomering it really bad. So when you hear about the first type of sacred space that I'll discuss with this video, which is casting a circle, what image comes to mind? Do you see witches dancing naked in the woods? Do you see a necromancer in a graveyard calling up some horrendous thing from beyond? Or do you see an image from a beautiful bygone time? The reality is actually a very simple practice, is what we're going to discuss. Throughout history, the concept of a circle as a sacred item, let me move this real quick. On the screen. Anyway, throughout history, the concept of a circle is sacred, and it's a rather universal belief. The circle can be the Ouroboros. Let's see if I can boomer this. Oops, okay. Which is a creative destruction. It's the serpent eating its tail. Sometimes it's seen as a dragon eating its tail, but it is the concept of eternity. How you have to destroy something to create that energy never goes away, it just changes form. So we'll move that away. This is the sorry. This is the perfect reason that a circle is so unique. Always has been tied to the divine. My personal view of the circle is a symbol of eternity, and there's others that hold this view as well, so it's not just me. But the continuous flow of time, it's probably, to me, the best way to look at the divine, whether it's using divine God source energy, looking at it as a lord and lady, the god and goddess. But there's no beginning and there's no end in a circle. Everyone is equal and it's eternal, which is why you'll see in a lot of teachings environments, especially metaphysical, you'll always be in a circle. Almost always. Sometimes not. But if it's a small enough group, they'll have you in a circle. To access divine power, we open gates or watchtowers. And this is going back to some ancient practices, and it's going to unfortunately rely a little bit on, well, not unfortunately, but it's going to rely on a lot of the practice of Wicca today, even though these practices predate any concept of what modern-day Wicca is. The gates or watchtowers have guardians, which is just a given. With any gate, you always have someone who's going to watch over it for you. So in our third dimensional world, we use the image of a square to contact the divine circle. The divine is so universal, so outside of where we are at, that we have to access it, the old belief was, through the 4 watchtowers or gates, which are the 4 primary elements, earth, air, fire, and water. And so when we will work with this energy, you're actually bringing that square, the everyday, the mundane, and you're reaching out to connect into that divine, eternal energy. So if you've ever heard the old adage, which I knew it meant something impossible, but I didn't quite understand where it came from. But the old adage of squaring the circle. It's impossible to square your circle. It actually has a root in very, very complex geometry. I'm not getting into that. I was trying to understand and read through it, and it confused me very deeply. It was proposed that a square could never be constructed within a circle within a very set parameter set of tools. The phrase became very commonly used to basically say it's an impossible task, something that can never be done, don't even try. But in metaphysics, you always square your circle, because it's not an impossible thing to contact the divine. Although there are those that will tell you that you need to go through someone else. You can access God source divine energy yourself at any point in time. This is just a way to trigger an outer response, which basically sets your subconscious mind up to work with it. So you actually will square your circle by calling upon these elemental energies or angelic energies, which are the two primary ones I work with, to your circle. So the circle is the symbol of the divine and eternity. It also means unity, inclusivity, and perfection. Whereas the square is your everyday, mundane, practical, day-to-day life. The square represents stability and balance. And if you watch any of the old 70s sitcoms, being a square meant you were boring. But it also meant that you were just very grounded and practical, and you didn't have a lot of flighty energy. Which is what you're trying to do, is you're bringing this unknowable energy into a more practical, usable way, which is bringing the square to the circle. Both of these symbols have been thought of as gateways for eternity. Like, I can't find the origin, and I went back as far as I could, ancient Sumeria type thing, in my research for this. And the symbol of a square or a circle have always been emblems of gateways and divine energy. So, when I use a circle, and the one that I will go over in the meditation video is the one that I use for this purpose, it's for healing energy. And the way I do that is I create the circle, the sacred space, first. You separate yourself from the mundane world with that circle. And then I call in the energies of the four directions with the angels or with the elements, depending on my purpose for that day. There are some people who believe in calling the quarters first, talking to the Watchtower Guardians first, and then creating the sacred space. In reality, I have found that what works for you is what's best for you in this type of work. If you were in a specific type of working environment, like if you're joined a group, work within their parameters, but when you're on your own, you can still kind of do your own thing. I've tried both styles, honestly, and I prefer doing the circle first and then talking the angels or the elements into the circle. So the mechanics of the creation of the sacred space. There are unbelievable number of ways to create a circle, sacred space, from very simple, which is what I'm going to show you today, and you can build however complex you want off of that, to an extremely complex working that takes a great deal of training, even begin to understand what you're doing, let alone actually do it. Like, if you ever go into any of the ceremonial type work, their practice can take weeks to create one circle of sacred space. But they also are doing it for a very specific purpose. I don't recommend it. It is very risky, just in general. So, there's that. But before you begin, make sure that you're always in a relaxed and calm state. Recommended taking a bath to just relax and chill, play some soft music, or if you're in a hurry, take a shower. Just basically wash the day off and allow yourself a couple of minutes just to breathe and recenter. In our world today, I think it's a good thing just to take that time anyway, but before you start really working with divine energy, you really want to make sure that you're prepared for that, and that means calming down so that you can actually interact with the divine in a more open way. When we're really up in our monkey mind, we're always frustrated, it takes a lot out of you to be able to try to contact, because you can't tell what that still small voice is, because the rest of the chaos that's going on up there is drowning that voice out. So you want to make sure that you're kind of quieted down and ready. Preferably, you want to make sure that your area is clear of clutter. Make sure your supplies that you're going to need are within the area of what you're working. So if you're working with incenses, if you're working with oils, if you're working with crystals, you want all of that within the area that you're going to work to start with. To perform a basic circle creation, traditionally you want a 9-foot diameter circle. So you want an area that's cleared 9 foot in a complete circle environment, so you can actually move around a little bit, but also have space to breathe. If you don't have 9 feet, you can do it in a smaller space. I've worked small, I've worked big. If you can be outdoors, like in the summer months, it's really an amazing experience to be outside and do this type of work, because it activates something in your primal mind. I cannot tell you what it is because I don't know. I just know that there is something significantly different about doing this stuff outside. So I'm going to go over a couple of other variations because this is traditional. Now you can also do this in a meditation state. You don't have to do it in a physical state. It's just the physical state is a good way to train your mind on how to work with this energy. Once you get it, then you can use it anywhere. So we'll get into that in a bit. Traditionally, again, it's how I was trained. So traditional is where we start. You would use the athame, your ritual knife that never gets cutting anything physical. It's strictly a spiritual tool, to cut the veil between. I'm sorry, I just lost my spot. To cut the veil between the divine and the mundane, so you can actually start the merging process at that point. You can also use your wand if you have a healing wand. Those are great for that purpose as well. The other thing is if you don't have those or you're in a hurry, you can always take, and I can't remember if it's in martial arts, because this is what I do, but I think it's called the sword fingers, where you just have your index and your middle finger, and you can use that to direct the energy. So traditional belief is that you start everything in the east. East is where the sun comes up, therefore it is a time of beginning. So you will start in the direction of the east, and you always start your circles clockwise. So you will use your whatever tool you're using and direct white light energy down through your arm and out through the tool, and you will draw a circle starting in the east, go to the south, to the west, to the north, and back to the east. You will make 3 complete circles is the traditional way of doing that. So once you've done that, you can, in your mind, and sometimes, especially after practicing for a while, your physical eyes will actually be able to see the barrier of the energy. It's really cool when that happens. Take some practice, don't worry. And you do the 3 because it triggers the aspect of the divine, sorry. Because you tap into the Divine Mother, the Divine Father, and the child, or it can represent a triple goddess or a triple god. 3 is a divine number in all forms of numerology. So you can add whatever version of the 3 that you want in the comments below, but those are the ones that I used in the past, which is Mother, Father, Child, the triple goddess, or the triple god. But again, I'm always looking for new ideas and new concepts for that. So if you have any ideas, please drop them in the comments because I love reading those. Once you've completed your 3rd circle, you'll return to the center of that circle, or the 3rd lap. And you'll begin facing east again. When you get to this point, this is pretty much how I do it. You can do what you want. I always like to tap my right foot, either by the toe or by the heel, at least once, and just state that the circle is sealed. The divine is invited to join me in this presence. And normally you're going to notice some kind of a shift at that point, which is a lot more of you waking up to the fact that the divine's always there. This is just a way for you to tap into it so that your conscious mind can go sit down. And so this is the part where we will square the circle. And this is how I view it, and I'm just going to show you a quick little image here, because you have your square outside of the circle, and with that, it's because there's a more complex version of this that I will possibly go over later. I haven't quite decided yet. And so you want the square on the outside. So you're actually touching the sides of the square with the circle, and that's when you're opening those gates, is that the crossover points. So let me switch back to the other paper. When you call upon the 4 directions, it has several different names. A lot of the way I look at it nowadays is you're calling in these extra energies to hold space and lend energy and kind of give you a little bit more of a focus, because you're doing an extra step, so it's going to bring you into a little bit more of an aligned state in your mind. In the old times, it was believed to do this for protection from negative energies. There was a time, and I'm not denying the existence of the demonic, because you can't wander in too many of these paths and not start having some experiences that make you realize that there really is negative out there, and it really does have a conscious entity behind it. But they would use this the guardians, to hold the sacred space and keep all that negative stuff away. So whether you're using it to support you or to keep the stuff out is really up to you at that point, as far as how you want to work that, as far as how you want to visualize it. The angels are gonna guard you and support you no matter what. So when you get started, you're still facing east. You'll call out the invitation along the lines of, "Hail to the angel of the eastern air, Archangel Raphael," and then his title, the Divine Surgeon. "I invite you into this circle this day or night." Then you'll move to the south. You always move clockwise when you're working the opening parts. You move to the south and you can say, "Hail to the angel of the southern fire, Archangel Michael, he who is like God. I invite you into this circle this day or night." Turn to the west. "Hail to the angel of the western waters, Archangel Gabriel. God is my strength. I invite you into this circle this day or night." And then go to the north, and you can either call upon Uriel or Ariel. They both are for the elemental energy of air. It's just Uriel's the masculine and Ariel's the feminine. So when I do this, I usually use Gabriel as the feminine aspect, and so I'll also use Ariel to keep the masculine and the feminine in balance within the circle as well. But you'll say, "Hail to the angel of the earth and north, Archangel Uriel or Ariel, fire of God, I invite you into the circle this day or night." So then you can return to facing east and just thank them for showing up. And you'll notice by this point, because you've already triggered enough of your mind to settle down and be quiet, that you feel in a different energy space. And so you always want to thank everyone who's showing up. You want to thank your guides, the divine God source energy. And for me personally, first of all, I hate wearing shoes, but when I do have them on, when I get to this point, I usually kick them off anyway, because even when you look through the biblical text, you look through a lot of the ancient spiritual texts from the East, they all reference when you are on sacred ground, you should be barefoot. So at this point, kick off your shoes if you are wearing them to start with. And once you get your space called and you have all the guides and everything, and you can feel a difference, you do not want to cross that line once you're in that area. That's the reason you want to have everything ready beforehand. You're not going to offend the angels. You're not going to offend God source energy when you do this, but you're going to puncture the veil that you have created, or the door that you've created. And when that happens, it actually can cause a leak so that you're not as focused. And you can practice with it, because I thought it was a bunch of mumbo jumbo. But when you do it the first time and you're in that space and it's warm and it's nice and you can feel you just feel better. If you walk across that line, you're going to notice that there's a shift, and so then you have to pretty much redo the whole thing to get it to fix. But that's neither here nor there. But just something to remember is you want to stay within that area once you have it constructed. So once you have all that in place, you can do your work. And you can call in the divine, you can call in your guides to help work with it. And it's kind of what's comfortable for you is what you want to work with. You're the one that developed the space. You're the one using this sacred technology, because it really is a technology that science can't explain yet. But they couldn't explain most of the healing herbs for hundreds of thousands of years. So to me, this is a technology that we've just forgotten how to use. So there's that. Sorry, I'm saying a lot tonight. So once you get everything going, you can do a healing practice, which when I work distance healing, when I'm not doing it one-on-one and live, like through a video call, I will do this type of work, and I will go through the entire process, calling in the angels, the whole thing, and I will have either a name on a piece of paper that I'm working with, or I can work with a visualization in my mind. But I like to have something in front of me, because then I can use the oils or the mists or the crystals or whatever I'm working with to send the energy out to that person. And this is a good spot because that person, they can actually join you in basically an astral sense, and they will feel comfortable in doing so because you're in this very clearly defined safe space for them. And you can also use this to set up any intentions that you would like to do. If you are the type of person who likes to build vision boards, have everything ready, get into your space, and then build your board there. And then you can have divine source energy bless it with your, to set your intentions into it in a more intense way. You can do this for candles. Another one that I like to do, and I haven't done this in a while just because I've got my group that I work with, but when you're first starting out in this practice, if you want to bring in a new healing guide, there's galactic councils you can work with and all of that type of work. So this is a space where only the positive can come in. So it's not like you're going to accidentally call someone that's going to, trigger something you're not going to like. This is a good safe space. The angels will be there to guard it and keep out the stuff that's not going to work. But you can also tap into working with your other guides as well in a meditative state. It gets really, it can be a little intense when you do this, but to me, it's worth it because you have such an amazing experience doing that. And the circle is really a division between normal space and time and the divine. So you've built a gateway. That's the reason you always want to make sure to close them when you're done, which is the next part. So once you've completed everything and you're done, you feel content in what your intentions you've set, you feel content with the person that you've sent the healing to, or you're done with whatever you were working on. Now it's time to close everything down. So you perform your steps in reverse. So you start in the east. Always everything starts in the east. And you thank your angels and close the gateways as you go. So you can perform something along the lines of, and in this time you're going to go backwards. So you're going to go counterclockwise. So you'll start in the east. Thank you, Archangel Raphael, for bringing in the eastern air. Leave if you must, stay if you want. Blessings, or however you choose to end that. And then, and you can kind of close these either directions. I wrote it one way, but I meant to write the other. So apparently we're going this direction. You can go to the south, thanking Archangel Michael for bringing in the southern fire, and ask him to leave if you must, stay if he wants to. And blessings to the west. Thank you, Archangel Gabriel, for bringing in the western waters. Leave if you must, stay if you wish. And then to the north, thank you, Archangel Uriel, for grounding us with the northern earth. Leave if you must, stay if you will. And then you return to the center facing east. At this point, you can see or sense the gates are closing, and you're going to notice a shift in the energy within the circle. With the angels, I always thank them. It's just something that I've always done, and I feel that it's important to do. You thank the people who are working with you. And you give them the option to hang out if they want, but you want the gates closed. And so when you say their element with it and thank them for bringing that, it's their indication to shut that down, so it's not running in your house anymore. And then when you work with angelic energies, this is my personal opinion, never command them, always ask. If you ask respectfully, they'll work with you. They'll probably work with you even if you command them. I don't agree with that at all. They're conscious beings. You should be respectful. That's just my opinion. So once you've released your quarters, you can close your circle. So you'll move to where your circle was created in the east, and you use your non-dominant hand. So if you're right-handed, your non-dominant will be your left, which is your receptive hand. And you can hold your whichever tool you're using, the athame, the wand, or your hand, and you'll walk in reverse. So you'll start at the east, go north, to the west, to the south, and then back to east. You're going to draw that circle back up through that tool like a vacuum, basically, and you'll only go back once. You'll be able to call that energy up with one round. It's way more difficult to lay it out than to call it back up. And I don't mean difficult as in hard, it just takes more focus, I should say. And then once you've called it all back up, you can either ground it into Earth, to Gaia, or you can send it to the healing person that you were working with. Either way, it's very positive energy, so it's just good to share that. And once you're done, you can say something along the lines, and this is kind of the way I was taught anyway, is may the circle be open yet unbroken, heart to heart, merry meet and merry part. So if you had other people working with you, it's just a way to say that we'll always be joined, but now it's time for us to go our separate ways, or however you want to say that. You can do this for just you. You can do it for small groups, especially if you have a small group of other healers and you guys are working together to work something for somebody else that's not there presently. Or if they are there, you can do it right around them if they're comfortable with it. That's the one thing that I will say is always, if the person is present, if you're going to work this route, make sure that the person is comfortable with it. Don't just spring it on them, because then it'll throw off the whole process. And it's not ethical to do that, so you want to make sure that if they're in person, then this is what you want to, tell them this is what you're doing. If it's doing something at a distance and they're not on video conference or something, you can go ahead and do all of this, because it's just like when you pray for other people or send energy to them, you're just doing it in a much more elevated state. So a variation, if you're not in a situation where you can perform the entire action, is do the same steps but in your meditative state. So you basically will be guiding your own meditation, opening divine space within your own consciousness, following the same steps obviously, and then releasing it the same way. But the one thing with that I will say is, if before you just strictly do it within your mind, get comfortable with doing it in a physical sense, because when you do it in a physical way, it triggers your mind to shift and be like, okay, now we're into something special. This is not the mundane world. We are actually going to be working with God's source energy. We're going to be tapping into this higher frequency. We need to be in a much more calm state. So getting used to the physical actions of it is a benefit. And from experience, I can be having a really rough day, and I have something I have to do that night. I have an appointment scheduled for something distance that's not like a video call or whatever, or I found out someone is having a hard time. Just going through the process of doing this triggers a calming state, so it can actually settle you down. Even when you're frustrated or you're annoyed, take those deep breaths, go take a shower, take a bath if you have time, and then go through the steps and really focus on what you're doing. You are opening the door. You're going to have a divine encounter. You're going to talk to God yourself. And when you do that, it literally brings you into a different state. I don't know if there's any science behind it yet, because science doesn't know how to do a lot of the things that we do anymore, because energy work is, according to science, doesn't exist. So that's neither here nor there. But when you work like this, you're actually tapping into something that is significantly more intense than what your everyday mundane world is. And that's why you want to approach this with a calm state and a more focused attention. So the other thing that you can do when you're working with this, when you start your circle, you can use other energy colors. I tend to go with white when I'm working in a general term, but if I'm working on healing, you can use golden energy, you can use rose gold energy, you can use green. If you're working on a specific set of intentions, you can use colors aligned with that, as long as you can hold them in your mind while you're doing it. You don't want to mix a bunch of colors together, because then you're just going to be like, I can't hold all this in there, So for your practicing, start with something simple like one color with white, preferably, or you can use gold. If you are wanting to work with the more divine feminine, you can use silver, especially if you're using like full moon type stuff. Really is fun to work with the full moon when you have silver involved. So that's your basics of a circle. There's many styles, there's many practices around this type of work, and a lot of them are from Wiccan groups. I found this works for a lot of different things. I personally don't believe that it's one group has exclusive rights to it. And when you look at teachings and practices around the world, almost all of them have training and accessing the divine in some form of circular space. So if you are interested in that, keep digging, because there's a lot out there. Look to the ancient temples, look to the ancient beliefs. Even there's stuff I've seen some pictures from the Middle East, Armenia, and Egypt, and a few of those countries, where some of the underground carved into the mountain temples and stuff like that are domed or perfect circles, close to perfect circles, I should say. But it was because that was known that the circle was a divine aspect. So, if you have stayed with me through this whole video, I really appreciate that. If you have any comments, questions, you can drop them below, or you can go to my website, which will be linked in the description as well, and you can privately message me through that. There's also a book that I'm referencing in the comments section, or not in the comments, in the description, and it was written by full disclosure, she's a Wiccan High Priestess, but she works in a unique way. She actually has done some reference work and some meditation work with a couple of different universities, and they're starting to understand, because of the work that she's done with them, the different aspects of what meditation does to the human mind, how energy work and energy healing can actually affect the body. She's been involved in a lot of that behind the scenes, of course, but she has done a lot of that type of research in her more active years. But she's kind of settling down to just being a creator. She still has her groups that she does, and she's just a really fascinating person. But her book is referenced, and she has a lot of books, but I just referenced the one specific to circles and sacred spaces. So other than that, yeah, like the video if you like the video, subscribe if you enjoy this type of content. I appreciate and actually enjoy comments. So drop any comments you want. My only thing is evening criticism. Let's just be respectful, because I think we can all use a little bit more of that in our lives. Other than that, I hope you have an awesome week, and I will have the meditation either the same day this video drops or the following day. It just depends on what my time schedule looks like, but I hope you have an awesome week, and blessings.